It's Santa Vlog!
Hello and welcome to the 10 Count Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Tiller. Wherever you are and however you're listening, thanks for making us a part of your day. Before we go any further, we are fan and listener supported, bringing this podcast to you for free every Saturday. Be sure and support us by subscribing on iTunes and SoundCloud. And while you're at it, go ahead and rate us on iTunes. That 5-star rating will help us get some attention and attract new listeners and sponsors. You can also visit our website, 10countblog.wordpress.com. We post every podcast there, as well as some cool blog entries. You can also check out our social media and podcast page. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as checking out some of our favorite podcasts. Finally, be sure to check out our local indie promotions page, where we've provided links to some of the area's hottest indie promotions. That's all at 10countblog.wordpress.com. Well, this week we have a special treat for our listeners. Our guest is one of the biggest names in the area when it comes to indie wrestling, the right hand of God, Sam Knight. During our conversation, we talk about indie wrestling, being prepared for every opportunity, and big things that are on the horizon for indie wrestling in this area. One might call them massive. Sam talks about his experience in WWE and the roads that have led him from Knox Pro to southeastern Illinois and southwestern Indiana. He also talks about the importance of building up young guys who are just starting out in the business, and that's something he knows a thing or two about. He's trained some of the hottest young stars in the area. We also want to make sure we give our friends at Rollick a plug. They've allowed us to use their song, Snorkeling into Oblivion, as the official theme for the 10 Count Podcast. Be sure to head on over to Facebook and give them a like, and then take a moment and download their latest album. They're giving it to you for free. And if you're in the Vincennes area on June 25th around 2 p.m., go check out their event, the Rollick Frolic, at the Vincennes Riverfront Pavilion on 2nd Street. Lots of great bands on that card. So sit back, relax, and take it all in. Here's our conversation with Sam Knight. Sam, so glad to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Yourself?
I am doing just fine. Talk a little bit about how you got into wrestling. You had a lot of great stories about meeting the right people and being at the right place at the right time. It sounds like you've had a really interesting career thus far, and I'm curious to hear about that.
For the most part, it's been very interesting, to say the least. I started out in Southern California, wrestling on the independent scene. I got my training starting at Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. Made the transition from there to AWS, and finally to Knox Pro Wrestling Academy, where things just blew up for me and took off. And like I said before, I mean, being around the right people at the right time is what really helped me out.
So talk a little bit about your journey coming up. Before you got to Knox Pro, you mentioned that you were around the wrong people, kind of immature at the time. Talk a little bit about that, and then how you transitioned over to Knox Pro and getting with the right people.
When you're young and you don't really understand the importance of things, you take it for granted. And I was just like I said before, I was a mark with the television. So I was just watching TV and thinking I could do it just because it looked awesome. But after a while, when I realized that this was something I really wanted to do, I started to invest into it. Yeah, I mean, I was around the wrong people. I got the wrong advice. I was doing the wrong things just because I was surrounding myself around people who weren't like-minded. We did not have the same passion. So finally, when maturity kicked in, I ended up going over to Knox Pro and getting that right training and getting, nothing, like I said, nothing against anybody else who's ever trained me, because I enjoyed myself at Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, but I did not apply myself. When I went to Knox Pro, that's where I began to apply myself, because we had no choice. We had no choice. It was either you apply yourself or stop wasting your money here. And finally, things took off from there for me.
So you talked a little bit about, when you're with guys like that. I mean, you met a lot of people in your travels there at Knox Pro. Talk a little bit about some of those guys and some of the things that you've seen along the way.
For example, I have an opportunity to kind of be taken under the wing of the Count of California, Black Pearl, and Rikishi Fatu, and Vampire Warrior Gangrel. They were like our father figures So they were very, very strict on the way they trained us. And if anybody came in and took advantage and took liberties with us, it became very, very personal, very quick. I also developed a relationship with Gangrel outside of the school because he loved my dad. So it allowed me to be able to learn more and actually feel like it meant something to him to make sure I was successful. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And Knox Pro opened up its doors to a lot of people. We had guys like Dylan Drake, guys like the Reno Scum, guys like Chavo Guerrero, Sim Bodie, the Boogeyman, all these guys who came in. And watching the way they work or the way they were putting together the matches was a great experience for me because it taught me to be a better worker. It taught me how to be a better wrestler when I'm in the ring, a smarter wrestler when I'm in the ring, instead of going out there and hurting myself.
Give me an example of that, because I know you talk about watching some of these guys. You're not a big presence necessarily in the locker room as far as talking and socializing. You're always kind of watching, is kind of what you said.
Right. I'm not the guy to go and run my mouth. I'm the guy that's going to sit back and watch, because I was always taught to sit back and learn. You know, one of the unwritten rules in professional wrestling is keep your ears and eyes open and your mouth shut. That's how you learn. And watching those guys, especially, one of the guys that jumps out to me, actually a couple guys that jump out to me, watching Ken Anderson, watching the Young Bucks, watching those guys call their matches. Unbeknownst to what many people may think of their match calling, it was something different for me. You know, some guys call spot. Some guys call a very, very basic match. But these guys were calling matches, and I'm sitting there going, oh, geez, that's different. You know, it's so smooth. It looked like it was just so easy to put the things together. Instead of everybody seeming confused at the end of the match, no matter how long the match was going to go, no matter how many variables were in the match, it looked simple. And that's how I base my matches off of. It has to be simple. Granted, it can be so simple that it pops everybody for 30 minutes, or it can be so simple that we get the point across in 6 minutes. Can you see my point?
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you learn, you know, from watching you? You sit here and talk about, you know, calling the match and making it kind of a combination of simple and some of the bigger spots, I'm sure. But I mean, what are the things you're looking for specifically when you're watching a match like that? I'm
looking for. I'm all about telling a story. So to me, it has to make sense. I'm looking for the storytelling. I mean, wrestlers, we're telling a story with our bodies. We're out there working to get our point across. And if you're out there just throwing caution to the wind every time you're out there, no one's going to really understand what you're doing. All they see are guys just flying around. So I really look for the story they're telling. And the majority of the guys I've been in the locker room with who've been to the WWE or have been in TNA or been in ROH, they tell a story each time. Now, don't get it twisted. Like I said, a lot of people may have a different opinion when it comes to the Young Bucks, because the Young Bucks throw super kicks. That's what they do. But
what was the super kick counter the other night? They got up to, what, 50-some?
Right, 51, right? But at the same time, we're in a different age in professional wrestling where telling a story may not attract the younger fan as opposed to attracting me to sit down and watch the match. You go to an ROH show, that 51 super kick count is going to pop everybody in that seat, where I might be the person going, that didn't make sense. But at the same time, it was entertaining. It got the point across to everybody else, right? So that's what those fans are looking for. Me, I mean, I'm a different kind of wrestling fan, which is why I'm not one to really go and throw 50, 60, 70 spots into a match. I mean, you know, you wrestle me, you got an easy night. You know, I'm not saying I'm the easy opponent. I'm saying you wrestle me, you're not going to have to go out there and kill yourself. We're going to tell a story, and it's going to make sense, and it's not going to be boring.
So talk a little bit about storytelling in a match. I mean, you know, you hear people talk about it, and personally I've heard people say, well, it's become a lost art form. How do you tell a match like that in the story? Or story like that in the match, rather?
I will agree that telling a story is a lost art form, but I will also say that the reason why storytelling is a lost art form is because a lot of people aren't teaching that anymore. You know, a lot of schools are not teaching telling stories. Gangrel used to tell us every training, you've got to remember the basics. You've got to get back to the basics. No one's using the basics anymore. And granted, like I said, we're in a different environment. This is a new age in professional wrestling. And you've got all this stuff on television where everyone's flying around doing all these moves, and it's not telling a story. So, because it's not telling a story, the indie guys, quote unquote, they are so, I'm not gonna say brainwashed, are so accustomed to what they see in ROH, WWE, TNA, that they feel like, or Lucha Underground, which is, they're all great products. They're so used to seeing all that now in their matches, storytelling doesn't matter. We just got to get our stuff in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get our stuff in. Screw telling the story. Let's just get our stuff in. Wow. When you have a guy like me on the show, it's like, okay, you can get your stuff in, but I'm going to make sure it makes sense when you're doing it. So that at the end of the night, when we walk in the back, if I ask a fan when I leave, did you understand it? They can go, yeah, I did. I got it. I understand that you were the good guy. He was the bad guy. He took out this. You took out that. You fought up to make sure you stayed alive. He kept shutting you down. And at the end, evil lost to good because the good prevailed. That's a great way to tell the story, right? Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And it's hard sometimes to follow wrestling, especially in the bigger promotions. You know, Lucha is so fast. Lucha Underground just, I mean, they do a good job telling stories. I mean, the produced vignettes and all that good stuff. I mean, they do a lot of great stuff for TV. But as far as the matches go, it just seems like it's so fast and so hard to follow sometimes. And I know that you, when you train people, and we'll talk a little bit more about you training guys a little bit later on, but I know that your philosophy on it is, you know, just keep it simple, slow it down, make sure that it makes sense. Talk a little bit about how that's been received with guys you've talked to and with guys you've wrestled.
Because of the fact that I have had the opportunity to wrestle with people who've been places, they have slowed me down a lot. Like for example, when I wrestled Congo Kong, he's probably the biggest guy I've been in the ring with, but it told a story. You know, I was the reigning and defending champion going against the monster who wanted to take my championship, and at the end of the day, I walked out of there holding the championship, beaten, battered, but I was still standing. You know what I mean? It's all about telling the story. Like, if I'm wrestling you and you're the new kid and I'm the big bad guy, my goal is to try to beat on the little new kid, and the new kid's goal is to make sure that he stands up to the bad guy and gets out of there alive. Win, lose, or draw, he's got to get out of there alive, so that at the end people remember that good guy can fight. That good guy did his best. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go out there and bury some kid, you know, just for my own benefit. The story, it's got to benefit everybody. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not going to go too much into the logistics of professional wrestling. All I'm going to say is, when I'm training my boys or training anybody who comes in, it's not, let's just go out there and get our stuff in. We're going to go out there and we're going to make this make sense. Everything you do has got to count. Every move you do has got to count. You're not going to go out there, slam a guy, pick him back up, slam the guy, pick the guy up. What sense does that make? It's got to make sense. It's got to tell a great story. And that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people, you know, I've done this podcast now for almost 2 months. And people, you know, constantly say, well, Sam Knight, he's just great. You're very respected in this area. And you're one of those guys that people kind of seek your, I don't want to say your admiration, but they seek your advice. They seek you out for bettering themselves. Talk a little bit about why you're so respected. I know you've traveled a lot. You've done Knox Pro. I mean, you've wrestled for some pretty big promotions. Talk a little bit about your travels that have made you the name you are.
First off, I'll say I appreciate everybody putting me over like they are, but truth be told, I wouldn't be who I am without the grace of God and the way my parents trained me. And I'm not saying training as far as wrestling, the way they train me as a person. And I wouldn't be where I am as far as wrestling is concerned if it hadn't been for my great trainers, from Joey Chaos to Rikishi Fatu to Gangrel to the California Black Pearl. They have taught me to be a professional. That's why I am who I am now. And of course with the travels, I mean, doing the WWE tryouts and doing the small spot for TNA and doing championship wrestling from Hollywood and doing championship wrestling from the Twin Cities, I have been around a lot of people where I have been forced to put myself in a very professional manner, conduct myself in a professional manner. And as far as the guys in this area, that's all I've been trying to teach them. So because of that, they see that, well, Sam's the guy that, not because he's been places, but because of the way he presents himself in the locker room. We've got to keep this professional. So when people start seeing how professional I am, it makes them strive to want to be the same way. And like I said, it's no good. It's nothing about me. It's not about me. Like I said, it's the grace of God that's made me the way I am. But I try to make sure that I have an open ear to younger talent. And I've been doing this almost 12 years now. And I still consider myself still young in the business. There are people who've been doing this longer than I have. But as young as I am in the business, I'm wise in the business too because of who I've been around. Rikishi, Gangrel, Black Pearl really did a lot for my career when I was at Knox Pro. If it was a 5 to 10 minute conversation, or if it was an hour conversation, if it was a lecture about something I did wrong in the ring, or if it was just 2 minutes of them pulling me to the side, I learned something. They put me in positions where I had to react in a positive manner, or I lost everything. So because I always I was put in positions where I was under pressure, I did well under pressure. And that's that's how I train my guys. I put them in positions where they're under pressure, and I go, now adapt to it.
And speaking, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'll use a quote from Will Bray's episode. I asked him, what was it like training with Sam Knight? And he goes, it was hell. And so I've got to know, what is training program with you? What's it like for these guys? I know you push them to their limits. I know you really work them out hard. Talk a little bit about your philosophy on that and what you do. Just take me through a training session with Sam Knight.
Well, it all depends on how I feel that day, to be honest. No, seriously, it's Knox Pro. They focus on a lot of cardio. You don't want to have a match and be blown up 2 minutes into it, 1 minute into it. It's horrible. You can't tell a story when you're stuck in air, and that's a shoot. Basics: arm drags, hip tosses, your bumps, being crisp, learning your rolls, being crisp, making sure you can get up fast enough for comebacks. I teach my boys how to bump and be safe. Not go out there, bump, and hurt yourself. Kishi always preached this: longevity is everything. Longevity. You want to do this for years, you got to protect your body. Unfortunately, before I came to Knox Pro, I was doing a lot of stupid stuff. Now here I am, darn near 30, and I'm feeling it, but not as much as I would have been had I not trained at Knox Pro. You know what I mean? Character development. I'm teaching the guys everything that Knox Pro taught me. I'm teaching them with my own spin. And obviously I'm doing a great job. Because these boys are getting noticed for working like true professionals. They look the part. They're in the gym. God knows I am. They're watching their diets. God knows I'm beginning to. We're all like-minded. There's a lot of, I've seen these pictures on Facebook where it says, surround yourself around people who have the same mind that you do. I post to Facebook about having my own camp. This is Knight's camp. Those are the guys I can look to and go, okay, I can trust you. We can go out here and have a stellar match and call it a night. Go out here and sell this town out and call it a night. Zach Hogan has been one of my most, he's one of my favorite opponents, I'll say that much. And I'm saying that not just because he'll be on the podcast tomorrow, but I'm saying it because I remember when the kid first wrestled me back at the Greater St. James Center back in Evansville, Indiana. I was the first quote-unquote indie guy he'd ever wrestled against. He was nervous because I was big and black. He didn't know anything about me. He heard I was from South Central, didn't know anything about me, so he was nervous. I opened my mouth. He was like, he doesn't sound like a black guy. So and I'm sure you can give him crap about it tomorrow when you talk to him. But
I
will. We went out there, and he was like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, what do you do? And he told me what he does. And we went out there, we put on a great match, and it shocked him how giving I was to him. and how I wanted him to make sure. I wanted to make sure that the hometown kid, the kid who the people already knew, was getting over, as opposed to me going out there and burying him. Then we started wrestling at TSW, and then I became Southern champion, and then I dropped the belt to him. And then I became heavyweight champion, and then I dropped the belt to him. You see how the dominoes fell. You see how the order went. The kid was a made man not because of me, but because of his hard work. Same with Will. Will and I can go out there and tear it up. And that kid is well on his way to becoming TSW heavyweight champion. Just because of him getting over with the fans and getting over with the guys in the back, but it's because he is being a professional. He's working his butt off. And I put my foot in his ass. No, I made him work, just like Hogan made him work. And a lot of other guys who had the chance to train with me, who are no longer wrestling, we made him work. And like I said, I mean, Will was right. It was hell. It was hell, but I'm sure they don't regret it.
Oh, no. And I'll be honest with you, if I had an opportunity to train with somebody like you, I would enjoy it, and I'd be excited about it. But that's different. I'm a mark. But
that's how it all starts, man. That's how we start. That's how we start out. We all start out as marks.
So talk to me a little bit about your training methods. I mean, we've gone through the putting guys over and the philosophy on it, but physically in the ring, what are some of the things that what are your tried and true methods? I mean, without giving too much away, I don't want you to give away your secrets, obviously.
That's fine. Conditioning. Knox Pro used to put us through some conditioning drills where it was running the tires, running the ropes, running around the ring, squats, bear crawls, old football drills I used to do when I was playing football. Jump roping, duck walks, leapfrogs. God. I remember it got to the point at Knox Pro where we had each trainer at a station, and we would have to go and train with that trainer in that station for 60 seconds. Whatever they wanted us to do for 60 seconds, and then move on. And the whole time, if we weren't at a station, we were running around the ring. So I brought that into my training. Knox Pro also has this drill called the Wild Samoan drill, where you're running in place with your high knees, like in football. And when the trainer yells bump, you bump, get back up, and keep running. And that drill was a killer for me. That's me being honest. But I got through it. It taught you how to persevere and get through that match and know where you are at all times. So that's another thing we do, and I will be doing that for guys who don't know that we are running training at New Wave Pro every Sunday. I will be doing that drill and more with my students because it is important for you to look your best and feel your best when you're in front of people who are paying to see you wrestle. When people are paying for you to come when they're paying to come see you wrestle, they're not paying for you to be horrible and have a bad match constantly and to look bad constantly. They're paying for you to give them their money's worth. So I make sure any guy that comes through my camp or in my training gives those people their best each time they're out there. By the time you're done training with me, and I'm not saying I'm the best trainer out there because I'm not, but by the time you're done training with me, you will be a worker. You will know how to wrestle. You will know how to capture a crowd. It's up to you to do the rest of the work.
And I think that shows through with the guys that you train. Of course, I've seen Will and Zach in the ring, and they've got a really great feud going on right now at TSW. And man, I'll never forget. There's a video on our Facebook page, facebook.com/10countblog, and you can go on there. Will Bray, he just gave Zach Hogan this amazing super kick, and it looked so good. And I think it's testament to, and I don't want you to necessarily toot your own horn or anything, but I think it's testament, the guys that you work with, you can tell that they are a cut above. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on a little bit, and let's talk about your travels. I mean, we've delved into Knox Pro. We've talked a little bit about some of the places you've been, but you've wrestled for some pretty big promotions, but also a lot of promotions. You've gone all over this country. You talked about keeping a list. Talk a little bit about that and how much fun that's been.
I've done it when I was wrestling in California. I had the opportunity to wrestle for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood once. It was a one-shot deal. I did a battle royal, but being in that locker room. It's not even the wrestling that I was excited about. It's being in that locker room. Guys like Adam Pearce, we had guys like Scorpio Sky, guys like Joey Chaos was there. Just a lot of people who were backstage who I got to watch and learn from. And of course, doing Ox Pro, and I spoke about my WWE tryouts, and those came, like I said, by the grace of God, nothing that I did, right place at the right time. Being able to be backstage in WWE and see how things are conducted backstage, see how the business aspect of it goes, that also helped me. See how they have their road agents and how things are so hustle and bustle on Monday night and how they're so relaxed on Tuesday night for the taping for SmackDown. The TNA shot I did was a different experience for me. It was crazy. It's fun. Championship Wrestling from the Twin Cities. I was brought in as enhancement talent. I wrestled against Kuder Brosifus and I wrestled against Ben Saylor. And both matches were fun matches for me. I learned a lot from both guys. I was pulled to the side by Stan Killer Kowalski, who told myself and Kuder Brosifus that was probably one of the best matches he'd seen in a very long time. And that was something big for me, because to have someone of his stature pull me to the side and tell me that, it meant something. I had some old AWA guys I wrestled in Minnesota, and they pulled me to the side after. Great match, told a great story. Your heel character told a great story. And I'm like, that's nothing that I've done. It's just it's a test to my training, who taught me. Let's see. And like I said, I usually keep a list of states I've wrestled in. I try to. Unfortunately, I don't have that with me right now.
And that's okay. But I got to ask you this. And, of course, for guys like me who will never, ever in their life see a WWE arena, ever, paint me a picture. What's it like walking into a tryout like that, especially with WWE? Just paint that picture. Take me from beginning to end.
I'll tell you from the beginning, the phone call. I am a stickler for preaching, be ready so you don't have to get ready. Stay in the gym, stay in shape, eat right, do it the right way, so you don't have to rush it when the opportunity comes. I received my phone call, the first phone call I got, I was getting off a plane in Chicago, from Chicago to LAX. I had just landed in LA. I had two phone calls, one from one of my best friends and the other one was from WWE, and they'd offered me the opportunity to come do a double shot on Martin Luther King weekend back in 2012. And so I went in and I never will forget it, because I struggled getting to the Honda Center in Anaheim. I was staying with my girlfriend at the time, and then I got a ride from one of the promoters I was working for to the Honda Center. Got there, and it was a very, very nerve-wracking experience for me, because the inner Mark in me is going, oh my God, that's this person. Oh my God, that's that person. But the outside of me was remaining professional. From seeing people like John Cena and seeing people like Randy Orton, who had just, it was a big experience. My second tryout, same thing. Seeing, anyone who knows me, I was a big Randy Orton guy. Seeing Randy Orton standing behind me with the WWE Championship, I'm just going, I don't know who to mark out for more, you or the belt. I mean, and that's a shoot. Like, I'm like, oh God. And seeing Jerry the King Lawler, my first tryout, seeing CM Punk, the second tryout, seeing CM Punk, walking into the trainer's office and having Punk, Daniel Bryan, and Kofi Kingston all in there holding conversation, and then Kofi cracking jokes with me. Didn't know anything about me, but cracking jokes with me. It's a nerve-wracking experience, because you don't want to do or say the wrong thing. You don't want to come off as being a mark and get escorted out the building. You want to remain as professional. So because of the fact that I had that training, because I was at Knox Pro, I was around Kishi, around David, around Reno, being around these guys and being around all these people they were bringing in, I had the opportunity to know how to conduct myself as a professional. So when I saw these guys, like, for example, I had just left catering and I was on my way to the extra locker room, and I ran into Shawn Michaels. And the crazy thing about running into Shawn Michaels was I was reading his book when I got the call. I had just closed the book, and turned my phone on as I was walking off the airplane. And so I saw Shawn, and he goes, Shawn Michaels. I said, I'm Isaac Watson. Nice to meet you. And he goes, what are you here for? I said, a tryout. He goes, you're big, you're black, you'll get it. Pats me on the back, he walks away. And like the inner kid in me is going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But the professional in me goes, thank you, sir, and walks right back into the locker room. So it's the experience for me is like any kid who goes to their first football game and runs into their favorite football player. But the flip of it is telling yourself, I don't want to be their fan for the rest of my life. I want to be their colleague. I want to work with them and work against them. And that was the ultimate lesson for me at my tryouts, both of them. You know, just like with TNA, you know, seeing Hulk Hogan and meeting AJ Styles and all those guys. Same thing. I don't want to mark out for you for the rest of my life. I want to work with you and work against you in a match, because that gives me the opportunity to learn from you to become better.
Absolutely. And those are such cool stories. So talk a little bit about the actual tryout. Now, what did they have you do as a tryout for WWE? I'm just curious. And again, I'm marking out here, but this is pretty cool stuff.
The first time it was an in-ring tryout against I can't remember the guy's name I ended up working with, but he ended up getting signed. And then my second tryout, I wrestled against one of my friends, Kyle Webb, and we did a quick 3-minute match, I believe, against each other in front of William Regal. The first time it was in front of William Regal and Matt Striker, and who, by the way, is one of the coolest guys I've ever met. Both of them are so awesome, and they're very informative. Like, if you guys are not listening to stuff that Stryker and Regal are saying, you don't belong in this business, and that's a shoot. They know their stuff.
And side note, I don't mean to interrupt, but William Regal, he's known for being very critical, not in a bad way though, in a very constructive way.
Yeah, very constructive way. Like I went into those tryouts thinking I knew and didn't know. Legit, like I walked in, I'm a Knox Pro kid, so I know. Came out there going, geez, he just blew my mind. And that's a shoot. You know, I've heard many wrestlers say when you're in this business and you think you know everything, it's time to get out, because you never stop learning. You never stop learning in this business. And so, doing those trials in front of them and having Regal break down the matches, the promos were also something for me. I mean, at the time, I was not very strong on my promos. God knows I've gotten so much better. But those experiences are things I will never forget, because it molded me into the wrestler I am now. Being in catering, which was also an eye-opening experience. You have all these guys and women who are WWE superstars, and then you have the extra talent who's sitting there. And in my mind, I'm going, I do not want to embarrass myself by doing anything dumb. You know, because I have to remain professional. It's not the fact that I was going to do anything dumb. It's the mindset of I don't want to do anything dumb, because all eyes are on us. They're watching you. It's like walking on eggshells backstage, because your mindset has got to be you want to work with them. Their mindset is these guys could be coming in and taking our spots. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll use a line from Bug's Life. It's a bug world out there. but honestly, it is. You've got to have the mindset of remain professional, because you never know who's looking. You know, first and second time I met Vince McMahon. In my mind, I'm going, oh my God, you're responsible for all this. You are responsible for the reason why I want to be a professional wrestler. But out of my mouth is, hi, I'm Isaac Watson. It's nice to meet you. Hey, Vince McMahon, nice to meet you. And walks away. You know, I fanboyed as I walked out. But
And that was a great Vince impression, by the way.
Oh, geez, please.
All right, so one more WWE story before we go on to some of the stuff you're doing right now. You talked about escorting Daniel Bryan.
Ah.
And for me, I am the world's biggest Daniel Bryan mark and fan, and I followed everything that guy has done for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. What was it like meeting him and talking to him, and just kind of take me through what happened?
First of all, I can't tell you that story unless I tell you the story that goes before that. Okay. We'd gotten to the Honda Center and met with the doctor, got everything taken squared away to make sure we were good for our tryouts. John Laurinaitis meets us. He goes, "Oh, you guys are going to meet with Triple H, and you're going to go and meet at the ring." So we go to the ring, we meet at the ring, and try to do my best Hunter impersonation. Triple H comes down from the ring, and he looks at us, he goes, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing?" Shakes our hands. He goes, "So what's going to happen? You guys are going to come together like a spear, like an arrowhead, and escort him out the ring." I was going to be the guy closest to the ring. I'm like, "All right, cool. Got it. We got it. Stephanie's going to be out there. Cool, I got it. Okay." So we meet Steph, and she's a sweetheart. Shakes our hands, and it's just like, she was like a bubbly little girl when she met us. It was so awesome. And we go over everything we're going to do. And then after that, we meet Brian, and he's awesome. Just really, really cool, laid back. And I'm thinking in my head, like, this guy could legitimately kick my tail. So I'm going to smile and wave. And so after they go out, they're doing their promo, and they're in the ring, and I hear her call for security, and we're all walking out. And as I'm walking out, I almost trip. But the thing was, because we were at the Honda Center, a lot of people in California know who I am. So I hear somebody yell, "Sam Knight, Knights!" I'm like, oh God. Nope, stay focused. And it's a cool experience because you're just like, "Hey, I'm in WWE right now," and you're waving at me. "Hi, Mom." So we get out there, and we're standing there, and Daniel gets out the ring, and the crowd's booing, and he gets face to face with me, and I'm sitting there like, "Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me." And so we escort him. We get him up the ramp. He does his no gimmick, and we get to the back. So I get home, and I get my phone's blown up, and my best friend goes, "I was really hoping he kicked you in the head, Ike." Really, was really hoping he kicked you. Just so I can say my best friend got kicked by Daniel Bryan.
That wouldn't be something your friends would wish on you.
No, but see, in that case, I think I had a handful of friends who wanted me to get punched by him. But that experience alone was probably one of the best experiences for me, because not only did we get the opportunity to work with people that I've been watching on television or watching, like you said with Brian, I have been watching Brian for a long time. ROH, PWG, Japan, all that stuff, I was watching them. You know, and seeing Steph on TV, I mean, who didn't watch Stephanie McMahon during the Attitude Era? I did. I mean, you know, so it was just like, and meeting Triple H, another experience, just like, it was like, oh man, this is freaking awesome. You know, but I didn't lose sight of the reason why I was there. Yes, the fanboy in me was out there. It was, you know, I felt that, but the professional in me, it was, I want you to love me so much, you sign me. And that's all that took precedence while I was there.
That's awesome, and I could sit and listen to you talk about that for forever. Of course, I can sit and listen to wrestling stories forever. But let's move on a little bit now to some of the stuff you're doing right now. Of course, you got Massive Wrestling. You've got stuff you're doing with New Wave Pro. You got a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, your calendar's pretty full.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, tonight I'm heading to Clinton, Indiana to wrestle for New Wave Pro. I am currently their New Wave Pro Crossroads champion. It's also by the grace of God. So we're doing things there. With Massive, I won't go into too many details. Just keep watching my Facebook. August 13th is a very huge day. I will say that much. We are going to change the face of professional wrestling. # no drama, just action. And that's the plan. You know, that hashtag isn't just some cool catchphrase. No, we're not bringing you drama. We're bringing you action. So keep watching for that. I'm also wrestling for UWC out in Georgetown, Illinois. I'm their online champion as we speak. I will be wrestling June 4th in Georgetown against Jimmy Carrot and Bo Sawyer for the online championship. So I've got a lot going on. You know, yeah, the calendar is very, very packed. My Sundays are packed. New Wave has open ring training where I'm spearheading that class. and I am inviting all people who have experience in wrestling to come out and train with us. Excuse me. If you can't get in contact with me on the Facebook, contact New Wave Pros Facebook, and you can get more details about that. We're inviting all experienced wrestlers to come out and train, because you don't know everything. And I mean, I can't teach you everything. I mean, I can teach you some things that you may not know. You can teach me things that I may not know. It's all about helping each other. We're a family here. So the invitation's out to you guys to come out for that. We're training at 1 p.m. Terre Haute time. So so it's time difference. So, hopefully you guys can come out. But other than that, that's my schedule. New Wave, UWC. Occasionally I'll swing back through this area, but very busy.
So I want to go back to the hashtag no drama thing. It seems like there's been a lot of unrest as of late between promoters, between a lot of different people. And I don't want you to necessarily comment on that as much as, I'm pushing personally, get out, support your indie wrestlers, because it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about the promoters. It's not about the drama, the politics. It's about the guys in the ring. Talk a little bit about that and, just kind of coming together as a family, like you said.
I've seen the things that are going on, and it's disappointing to me because there's no ill will on my part to neither one of them, to anybody that's involved. But my opinion is we need to focus more on bringing the action to the fans and leave the drama on screen instead of backstage. Let's make the segments look great, not bring out our dirty laundry for the whole world to see, because the fans are going to get shunned away and not want to see your show because they see the drama that you are bringing out in front of them. It makes it hard for people to enjoy themselves when they're surrounded by very high tense situations, which is why I have made it clear that if there's any personal issues, we will handle that personally and in private, not let's let the whole world know our problems. And that's just my opinion. There's no ill will towards anybody that's involved. I just pray that it ends, because the fans, in my opinion, they're the ones getting screwed in this whole thing, because eventually the fans are going to stop wanting to be involved. They're going to stop wanting to come to these shows because they see and they're hearing about this mess that's going on.
Absolutely, and I think that's, as a fan, when I see somebody shooting about another promoter on Facebook or, calling somebody out for some kind of transgression, I sit there and I think to myself, why? What's the purpose? We're all working with the same guys. We're all working with the same wrestlers. Let's get out there and let's put on the best show we can.
There's for a while there's been this movement called hashtag support indie wrestling. So let me go further in saying this. If we're supporting indie wrestling, that means we leave the drama at home. That means that we grow up and we let it go. Like I said, there's no ill will towards anybody. Either party's more than welcome to message me and ask me my opinion. I'll tell them same thing. Let's leave the drama at home. Let's not keep pushing it. Let's leave it alone. I don't know who upset who, and frankly, it's not my business, which I'm doing my thing on my end. But at the end of the day, ask yourself this question: are you hurting yourself or helping yourself by keeping this going? Is it hurting you more, or is it helping you more to keep this going? I can see if this was all work for ratings, then more power to you, high five, you're making money. But because you're hurting yourself, and you're hurting yourself in a way where people don't want to work for you. And I'm not just saying that because I think it. I'm saying it because I know it. Don't hurt yourself. Help your brother out. Help this other promotion out. Make this better. If you have irreconcilable differences, don't speak about each other ever. You do your thing, and they'll do their thing, and call it a day. It's that simple.
Absolutely. I am in 100% support of that statement. So we're running out of time here, Sam. How do people support you?
Like I said, contact me on Facebook. Come to the shows. I mean, I'll be having some Sam Knight shirts and mini jackets made here soon. We've got a lot going on. Like I said, when you see the flyer for Massive go up, we want to sell out that building, because I have got a couple of surprises for the wrestling fans of Vincennes, Indiana. Surprises you have not seen in the area ever. Mark my words when I say this. This is going to be a different kind of wrestling show, and probably one of the best wrestling shows you've ever experienced. So when the time comes and the flyer goes up, I want to see everybody there.
Absolutely, and 10 Count Podcast, 10 Count Blog will be bringing that information to you as soon as he lets it go, so be on the lookout for it. Sam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Special thanks again to Sam Knight for being on this week's podcast. We look forward to having him on 10 Count again at some point, but before we go, let's get to some upcoming events. Tonight, June the 4th, at the Banks of the Wabash Festival at 820 South 9th Street in Terre Haute, New Wave Pro Wrestling will have a free show beginning at 5:30 Eastern Time. Weather permitting, see all of your favorite New Wave Pro stars at this outdoor event, and making his NWP debut will be friend of the show, Staff Sergeant Stanley Roberts. Also tonight, the United Wrestling Coalition is live in Georgetown, Illinois at 220 East West Street. Doors open at 6, bell time is at 7 Central. Be sure to check out UWC on Facebook for more information. June 11th, Tri-State Wrestling makes its grand return to the Blue Jeans Center in Monroe City, Indiana. This is a long-awaited return for TSW. Doors open at 6, bell time is at 7 Eastern Time. Tickets are $5 a piece, kids 4 and under are free. June 25th, at the Vincennes Eagles Lodge, Tri-State Wrestling hosts their version of WrestleMania Night of Champions. Will Bray takes on Zach Hogan in an I Quit match for the TSW World Heavyweight Championship. There's a special start time for this event, 5:30. The doors open, and at that time, 10 Count will be doing a live podcast with several of the guys performing that evening. At 6:30, they'll kick off the TSW Hall of Fame ceremony, and then at 7, you kick off the show. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and SoundCloud. Go and rate us. Help the world know about 10 Count Podcast and 10 Count Blog. Get us on the new and noteworthy list. Also, don't forget to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find links to all of those on this article at 10countblog.wordpress.com. You can also check out our social media and podcast page and find them there. We're always accepting blog submissions. Want to write something about wrestling? Well, send it to us, 10countblog@gmail.com. It can be about any topic that you choose. Thanks again to Rollick for allowing us to use Snorkeling into Oblivion as our theme song. Check them out on Facebook and download their music for free. Be sure to check out the Rollick Frolic on June 25th at the Vincennes Riverfront Pavilion. Don't forget to visit us at 10countblog.wordpress.com. Subscribe on iTunes and SoundCloud and rate us. Seriously, it takes 5 minutes. We'll be back next week with a guest to be announced a little bit later on. Until then, thanks for listening to the 10 Count Podcast.